Seniors, why you should avoid eating these 3 foods with garlic. I need to share an observation that has been overlooked for too long by both patients and doctors. Garlic is undoubtedly a powerful natural remedy, but in certain combinations, it can not only lose its benefits, but also cause real harm to your liver. This is especially true if you're over 60 and consume it regularly. Today, I will discuss the 3 foods you should not combine with garlic if you want to maintain your health and energy. Listen and tell me, do you recognize yourself? You're preparing your usual dinner, chopping vegetables, adding a bit of olive oil, and garlic for flavor and health benefits. Or maybe you toss a clove onto your toast, spreading it with butter or pâté. It all seems harmless, even beneficial. After all, garlic boosts the immune system and improves digestion, or so we've always been told. But you may not realize that these combinations could be quietly undermining your liver health day by day. Research conducted in Tokyo has shown that under certain combinations, garlic can trigger oxidative processes in the liver, particularly in older adults. When the diet includes saturated fats, simple carbohydrates, or alcohol, garlic increases the toxic load. The liver is forced to process this mixture, and instead of health benefits, you end up with hidden inflammation that can accumulate over months and even years, manifesting as fatigue, lethargy, and a feeling of heaviness in the right upper abdomen. Garlic contains active compounds like allicin and sulfur, which can be beneficial in moderation. However, when consumed alongside fatty foods or sugar, these compounds can trigger the production of enzymes that overload the liver. Instead of offering protection, they can irritate liver cells, especially in individuals with pre-existing conditions such as fatty liver disease, elevated bilirubin levels, or bile flow disorders. What should be helpful can, when combined with unhealthy partners, turn into a source of toxins. Regular consumption of such combinations can lead to chronic liver overload, a decrease in detoxification function, and the accumulation of toxins in the bloodstream. In patients over 60, this may not manifest immediately, often presenting as general fatigue, poor sleep, forgetfulness, and unstable blood pressure. However, if the consumption continues, serious complications can arise, potentially leading to liver inflammation and metabolic disorders. But there's good news. By knowing just 3 foods that should not be combined with garlic, you can preserve its benefits and even improve liver health. You'll learn all the details shortly, and I assure you that 99% of older adults are unaware of this. If you follow even one of these recommendations, your body will notice the difference within just a few days. Share this video with your loved ones. They'll be grateful. Now let's move on to the first and most common combination that people confidently use, thinking they're doing something healthy: garlic and butter. At first glance, there's nothing wrong with a toast topped with garlic and butter, or sautéing vegetables or meat in butter with minced garlic. However, this combination can trigger subtle inflammatory reactions in the liver and disrupt its function, especially in people over 60. What's happening in your body? Butter is a saturated animal fat that, when heated, begins to release peroxides and free radicals. When garlic, which contains the active compound allicin, is added, the reaction intensifies. The liver faces a double burden as it needs to neutralize both the oxidation products from the butter and the active sulfur-containing components from the garlic. In younger years, the liver can handle this, but after age 60, enzymatic activity declines, and consuming such foods becomes a challenge, especially if they are part of your diet 3 to 4 times a week. Listen carefully to this story. Mrs. Akiko, 72 years old, has spent her life making her favorite garlic and herb butter toast, believing it to be both delicious and beneficial for her blood vessels. However, in recent months, she has started to complain about quick fatigue, nausea after meals, and a dull pain under her ribs. Tests revealed elevated liver enzyme levels. Doctors suspected the onset of fatty liver disease. Only after a detailed review of the diet did they discover that the culprit was the habit of cooking with butter and garlic every day. After switching to vegetable oil and limiting frying, the health indicators began to stabilize within just 3 weeks. The weakness and heaviness disappeared, and a sense of lightness returned to the body. However, if you love the taste of garlic, there's no need to completely eliminate it. It's important not to combine it with animal fats, especially by frying it in butter. Instead, try using garlic in its raw form or lightly sautéed, adding it to already prepared dishes like salads, vegetables, fish, or grains. The most important thing is to cook with garlic using cold-pressed olive oil, but make sure not to overheat it. It's also beneficial to add garlic to stews that are rich in greens, as this softens its potency and supports liver health. Remember, the key is not the intensity of the flavor, but the balance of the combination. This next point might seem unusual, as who eats garlic with sugar directly? However, the danger lies not in obvious sweets, but in the frequency with which garlic appears in dishes that contain added sugars. Marinades, ready-made sauces, ketchup, and store-bought seasonings. These are the products where garlic is combined with glucose, fructose, and sucrose. This combination is particularly harmful to the liver, especially for individuals over 60 years old. Here's a clear example. Mr. Hakamuro, 76 years old, was very fond of meat marinated in garlic and often bought ready-made sauces for that rich flavor. He was convinced he was making a tasty and even healthy choice, since garlic is supposed to be good for you. However, over time, he started experiencing a bitter taste in his mouth, a heavy feeling after meals, and a tendency towards elevated blood sugar levels. Tests revealed fatty liver disease and prediabetes. When the doctor carefully examined his diet, it turned out that in his favorite marinade, there was not only garlic, but also hidden sugar in 3 forms. After Joseph switched to homemade dressings without sugar, stopped using ready-made sauces, and only ate fresh garlic, his blood sugar levels stabilized, and his liver began to recover. Write this information down so you don't forget. To preserve the benefits of garlic and protect your liver, avoid store-bought sauces and convenience foods, even if they seem healthy. Make dressings and marinades at home. Use garlic with lemon juice, olive oil, sugar-free mustard, and herbs. Important: add garlic to stewed vegetables or legume dishes. They contain no sugar and help balance the effects. If you're craving a bit of sweetness, opt for natural options with a low glycemic index. A little pumpkin, roasted onions, or green apples. These won't cause sharp spikes in blood sugar and won't burden your liver. This combination is particularly insidious because it hides in many popular dishes: roasted meat with garlic, braised pork, kebabs, and sausages with garlic and spices. On the surface, it sounds delicious, hearty, and even traditionally healthy. However, the combination of garlic with fatty meats is especially dangerous for liver health, gallbladder function, and metabolism in adulthood, especially if such dishes appear on the table regularly. Do you often eat meals like this? If so, here's what happens in your body. Fatty meat requires a large amount of bile for digestion, especially when it comes to pork, duck, lamb, or processed meats, like sausages. Garlic, being a natural stimulant, increases bile secretion and activates liver enzymes. This is beneficial, but only if the gallbladder is functioning smoothly. Older adults often experience bile stagnation, kinks, and thickening. When garlic and fat stimulate the liver simultaneously but bile can't be released quickly enough, it can lead to spasms, stagnation, and inflammation. This may cause dull pain under the ribs, a bitter taste in the mouth, heaviness after meals, and even nausea. In the long term, there's an increased risk of gallstones and worsening liver function. Listen to this story. I think you might see yourself in it. Mrs. Kazuo, 74 years old, loved to cook braised pork with garlic using a family recipe. This dish brought the entire family together at the table. However, after a few years, she started experiencing discomfort after meals, a burning sensation under her ribs, and a persistent bitter taste in her mouth. The diagnosis: bile stagnation and early-stage gallstone disease. The doctor advised her to change not only her cooking methods, but also key ingredients. Mrs. Kazuo began baking skinless chicken, adding garlic only after cooking, and focused more on braised vegetables and grains. After 2 months, the pain disappeared, and tests showed an improvement in liver function. The traditions remained, but they became gentler and more caring. To ensure garlic is beneficial rather than harmful, follow these tips. Pair it with lean proteins like turkey, skinless chicken, boiled fish, or legumes. When cooking meat, opt for baking or steaming without oil, and add garlic at the very end after cooking. This will reduce the strain on your gallbladder and preserve the active compounds in garlic. A great option would be a vegetable stew with beans and garlic, or steamed chicken patties with herbs. These dishes are not only easy to digest, but also provide a feeling of fullness without heaviness. But wait, there's more to consider. Consuming garlic on an empty stomach is considered one of the oldest folk remedies for detoxifying the body. Many people drink garlic-infused water in the morning or eat a clove before breakfast, believing it boosts immunity, cleanses the blood, and kickstarts digestion. But what if I told you that for older adults, especially those with liver or stomach issues, this practice could be dangerous? What happens in your body if you follow this dietary habit? On an empty stomach, the stomach lining is particularly vulnerable. Raw garlic contains active enzymes and phytoncides that stimulate the secretion of gastric juice and bile. For young people, this might be beneficial. However, for older adults with atrophic gastritis, high acidity, or an already overburdened liver, this can become an aggressive irritant. Instead of a gentle kickstart, it can lead to irritation of the stomach lining, spasms of the gallbladder, and the release of bile into an empty stomach. As a result, you might experience nausea, heartburn, a bitter taste in your mouth, and weakness. If this occurs regularly, it can lead to inflammation, disrupt gut flora, and worsen liver conditions. Mrs. Linda, 70 years old, started drinking garlic-infused water every morning after reading an article about natural detox methods. At first, she felt fine, but by the second week, she began to experience nausea, dizziness, and heartburn. The heaviness in her stomach lingered until the evening. She consulted her doctor, who referred her to a gastroenterologist. Tests revealed irritation of the stomach lining and bile stagnation. After discontinuing her morning ritual and switching to a gentle diet with probiotics and light proteins, her condition improved. Garlic was reintroduced into her diet, but only in cooked form and after meals. So how can you do it right to avoid harming yourself? If you still want to use garlic as a health booster, it's better to add it to your meals rather than taking it on an empty stomach. A great time to do this is during lunch or dinner, when your stomach is partially full and bile is actively aiding digestion. Cooked or sautéed garlic is gentler on the digestive system while still retaining its health benefits. Another way is to prepare infusions with garlic and herbs, like mint or fennel, but take them not on an empty stomach, but between meals. This gently supports the immune system and liver without causing aggressive irritation. But wait, garlic itself is not the enemy. On the contrary, it is one of nature's strongest allies. It has antibacterial, antifungal, vasodilating, and even mild pain-relieving properties. The key lies in the dosage, form, and combination. When done correctly, garlic can gently support the immune system, heart, and liver without causing overload or side effects. This is especially important for older adults whose bodies have become more sensitive. Remember, garlic is a powerful remedy, and like any active substance, it requires a thoughtful approach. Its key components, allicin, sulfur, and essential oils, are activated when crushed and steeped. However, raw garlic can be harsh on the mucous membranes and liver. Cooking it can diminish some of its benefits. Therefore, the most effective method is to activate the garlic. Crush a clove, let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes at room temperature, and then add it to a warm, but not hot, dish. This way, allicin is preserved while minimizing the burden on the liver. It's also important to practice moderation. Half or 1 clove per day is sufficient. No more. Here's a fascinating story about an elderly man. Mr. Thomas, 80 years old, always had a deep respect for garlic, but after experiencing some stomach issues, he decided to eliminate it from his diet completely. However, during the winter, upon his family doctor's advice, he tried a new method. He crushed a garlic clove, let it sit for 15 minutes, and then added it to warm barley with herbs and pumpkin. And then a miracle happened. After a month, he noticed that he was getting sick less often, his digestion improved, and his blood pressure became stable. His doctor pointed out that with this approach, garlic acts as a gentle yet consistent support for the immune and cardiovascular systems without posing any risk to the liver. Take a notebook and jot down these few gentle yet effective ways to incorporate garlic after the age of 60. Crush and steep it, adding it to warm porridge, vegetables, or soup after cooking. You can also make a garlic infusion in water or olive oil. Use 23 drops in a salad or on a slice of bread. Another option is garlic plus lemon plus honey. Take 1 teaspoon of the mixture after meals in courses. Sautéing garlic with vegetables makes it much easier on the stomach. If you have a sensitive digestive system, consider powdered garlic in capsules, only under a doctor's guidance. The key is to avoid consuming it on an empty stomach and not to combine it with fatty or sugary foods. Remember, garlic is not a cure-all, but rather a gentle ally when treated with respect and understanding. Let's summarize together and review what we've learned. We've explored everything that lies behind the familiar taste of garlic. It can be a health ally, but it can also subtly overload the liver, irritate the stomach, and provoke inflammation, especially as we age. The danger isn't in the garlic itself, but in unsuitable combinations with butter, sugar, fatty meats, or when consumed on an empty stomach. However, by knowing what to avoid and how to substitute, you're already protecting yourself. This is what conscious care looks like. Now you have a simple and reliable guideline. Use garlic only in moderation, after meals, and in combination with plant-based fats, vegetables, and grains. Avoid it on an empty stomach, with fat or with sugar. This way, it won't harm your liver but will support it instead. You can incorporate garlic into your daily routine, but treat it as a remedy, with gentleness and knowledge. This will allow your body to feel light and your digestion to function smoothly without overload. If you think, "I've been eating garlic my whole life and I'm fine," remember, our bodies change as we age. What used to be easily digested may now require more attention. This isn't a reason to give it up. It's a sign that it's time to reassess your habits. Even the smallest adjustments, like avoiding frying or incorporating garlic into warm dishes, can lead to a feeling of lightness and clarity in just a week. All it takes is a little mindfulness and kindness toward yourself. Tomorrow, try swapping your usual dish with fried garlic for sautéed vegetables with a warm garlic dressing. Or consider omitting garlic from breakfast and saving it for lunch instead. Allow your body to rest and operate at its own pace. This isn't about sacrificing flavor. It's about respecting your body, which has been through a lot and deserves care.